Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. Hopefully, you all are doing well. I'm sorry it has been a little while, as it has been lately. Like, I'm behind, of course, but I've had a lot of things going on in my personal life, working a lot, fighting a cold. I was sick for a good 3 days. I just didn't feel like doing anything. And of course, I've had sick cats. Um, Today is the 8th of February. It's Thursday, and I had to put my diabetic cat Bandit down on Tuesday. So that was not a good day. It was not a good weekend. Um, that was a really hard one for all of us at home here. So he's in a better place. He's with my mom and Bo and Jack, who I've lost over the last 3 years. So, lost three cats in 3 years. And then I have Ember, who's like the last old one. She's about 13 as well. So is Bandit. And she's probably not far along. But anyway, I hope you all are doing okay. Today's going to be an exciting day. Hopefully, y'all are going to be watching the Tucker interview with Putin at my time, 3 p.m. today, and it's noon, so I need to get this done so I can watch that interview today. So that's going to be exciting, you guys. Lots of things going on. Oh my gosh. This 2024, I'm telling you, it's a wild ride already. So lots of stuff going on. I knew we were going to have early spring because my apple tree was growing, like already had buds, and my rose bush outside was blooming. My wildflowers were still producing buds, like in the middle of winter until we got the freeze. At the end of, well, I guess it was, oh my God, time flies so fast. But when we got the freeze a few weeks ago, um, and it killed my rose bush. It killed most of all of my wildflowers. Um, but there's still buds on the trees, and I've got sprouts popping up in my bins out there of wildflowers. So spring is coming, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I can finally get up in the morning when I go to work, and the sun is like just now peaking. So there's some kind of light, and I'm not leaving to go to work in complete darkness. So that's fun. I love that. But anyway, lots of changes, lots of solar flares, lots of things going on. I have some ideas for some different videos other than the Alex's information. Um, I wanted to do one on the chakra system. Joanne Dunn from Ascension Evolution did a video about how our chakra system is changing and integrating into one. I knew about that from back in 2010, 2011, when George Cavassalis talked about it. So maybe I'm going to do a video in reading from his book, Our Journey Home, all about that. It's very interesting stuff, and it's finally coming to light. Um, and then I thought I would do another video, possibly. I won't tell you what it is yet, though. But anyways, today we're going to do Alex Collier's number 190 from August 25th of 2023. I had a comment on my BitChute page from a person, and I think it's the same person, that kind of gave a negative comment about why don't I do stuff up to date? Like, this is all old information. And I've said this before, like, I agree, like some of it is old information, and I'm trying to like not bring some of that old information into it. Um, but Alex does talk about a lot of good things that don't pertain to just current events. So that's why I do it. And his YouTube channel, he does not put out this information, this recent information. His YouTube channel is like a year or two behind, I think, in the videos. So I'm the only one that I know of that transcribes his information and puts it on a YouTube channel and a BitChute channel. So, anyways, that's why I'm doing it. So it's in between. I don't ask for money. I have a full-time job. If you want to donate to me, you're more than welcome, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm not a patriot. Like I want to get this information out to people, and this is why I do it for free. So it may not be up to date, but it's there for you, my beautiful family. Thank you. So thank you for watching. Anyway, so let's get into Alex Collier's number 190 from August 25th of 2023. He says, "Hi everybody." He says, "It's been a snoozer." So this was back in August. He says, "I wish that were true." He was joking. There was a lot going on. He says, "Listen, about the opening statement from JP regarding the benefit and copyright. There is somebody on Telegram who is doing this, violating our copyright. There's someone also on YouTube also doing it. They clearly don't give a shit. And I want to say to both of you, I know I'm supposed to be flattered, but I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate that you're doing this because we're all under a lot of pressure to survive. And that's where we are today. Many of us are in place of survival, actually, yes. And we're trying to stay in our homes, our apartments, etc. So I do not appreciate the fact that you do it. Okay? I'm not going to call you out yet, he says. So, but I'm calling you out, he says. See, and that's why, yeah, it would be a whole lot easier just to copy his videos, but I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that because that is a copyright. So a lot of people just copy and paste and take those videos and use it for themselves to get views, to get money, and I'm not going to do that. Yes, it takes me a long time to transcribe, but I also like to add in all of my experience and all of my knowledge with these videos. So hopefully, my dear family, those of you who watch, you know that, and I appreciate you and I love you for it. So thank you for watching. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I know we have a long list of things to talk about, and I hope to get to it, but there's a lot of other things we need to talk about." He says, "Some of this is going to be uncomfortable, but it's things we have to talk about." He says, "With the president's fourth arrest and another one coming from Michigan, sadly, we're there," he says. "Now, I want to talk about several things here. Number one, I never really know how to start these things." He says, um, "Have many of you seen the movie The Big Short?" He says, with Christian Bale playing Michael Burry. He says, "If you haven't seen the movie The Big Short, please do. You can rent it." He says, "You could probably find it online somewhere, but it's a must-see because it gives you a great deal of insight into Wall Street and the lessons that they should have learned during the 2007 and 2008 banking diabolical." He said they not only learned, but they frickin' doubled down, which is where we find ourselves today. I think I have fur in my eyelashes or something. Sorry. He says, "So these are things we have to talk about because this is a we thing, okay? Every webinar, or most webinars," he says, "I tell you, in defending each other, we will remain free." He says, "Well, this information that I pass on to you is my way of defending you." I always forget to check the volume, so sorry, guys. He says, "Because I'm literally," he says, "can't be in your space all the time." He says, "So we're going to have to talk about a bunch of that. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to my admins. And I just want to say I appreciate most of you treating you with the utmost respect because they absolutely deserve everyone's utmost respect because they are. And I can't say this enough. I'm so blessed. He says that they're extraordinary people. He says, I've already introduced you to Lady Bishop, Katie Bishop. I checked out her page. I bookmarked it. So it says, and earthbishop.com, which is what she's doing, her healing gig and everything that she does. He says, today I want to introduce you to another admin, Mina, is also known as Marla Joy. Marla has been an international yoga and meditation teacher and teacher trainer for the last 30 years, along with owning with her husband and running a well-known yoga center in Toronto, Canada. They now live in Costa Rica and work online for people in the field of yoga and spiritual counseling, as well as holding retreats and trainings on their beautiful land. Everything she does is donation based. That's awesome. See, those are good people. Those are the ones, yes, that you want to support. Her website is templeoflight.love. You can reach her through the website. I've come to know Mina very well because when I can't sort something out and I'm long in the tooth, he says about something, I go to Mina. Okay. Oh, my dog's here with me, so sorry for the shaking. Hey, look, hi, buddy. He says, okay, Mornay is a long distance call. He says, I don't have 24 access to him, and it's never been that way. And it's not even that way with Mina. But you want to talk about an amazingly wise soul. She is an amazingly wise soul. She and her husband. And give Mina a shout. Check her out. Check her website out, templeoflight.love. And this is probably a really good time because, ladies and gentlemen, the shit is coming down. Okay? It is. The fuse has been lit. And Cliff High has been talking about September going into October about all the radical changes and all of the drama that's going to be there. And actually, he picked this stuff up back in the early 90s, early 2000s, and it's here now. All of the descriptors that he couldn't make sense of all make sense now because that information was so far into the future. Sorry, I'm just writing. Sometimes Alex talks like he doesn't say the words correctly, or he doesn't, like, he's the way he talks is the way I write. I write whatever he says. So sometimes it's a little different. He says, okay. So he also says, well, I'll get to that in a second. So back to Cliff High in a second. I also want to share with you, I'm having a lot of email issues and I've had to reach out to Microsoft. I hate to do it, but it turns out that I've been hacked by an AI program. And so I don't have access to my emails. I can be reached on Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal, or firstnights17 at outlook.com. He says that one hasn't been hacked. He kind of laughed and he says, okay, at least not yet. He says, maybe now. He says, because I told them about it. But it's firstnights17 at outlook.com. The number 17, not spelled out. He says, at the moment, that's the only way you can reach me. He says, I can't even get into it to find out what's happening. So he says, and Microsoft has kicked it up to another notch because they hadn't seen this one before either. And we sort of know who it is. He says, Cliff High has done several programs where he's talking about some of the Vedic texts and he has interpreted them differently than others. He saw things other from a technology level, and it's really interesting information there. But what's really interesting is he called out in a good way one of our own, Elena Danan, in talking about how she's been able to fly the spacecraft to Neptune with Thorhan's permission. And obviously, she was on board. And he talked about how the third density craft are very easy for humans or us to fly. And it's really interesting information. So if you have the time, and I know Cliff High is in acquired taste, he says, but it's really interesting information. He says, we all catch crap. He says, but what matters is the information, because the information ultimately, time is the best lie detector. He says, and there is a lot of information that's coming back around, and it's absolutely appropriate, and it's dead on with where we are today. Okay. That's another thing, guys. I haven't watched any recent Alex webinars either. Like when I transcribe, I'm doing this in your time. So I haven't watched the last 6 months of his videos either. So I don't even have up-to-date information because I don't even have time to listen to it. Because his webinars used to be an hour and a half, and now they're 2 hours and a half. So it takes way longer to transcribe. So in the beginning, when I started doing all this, it took me not much time to do, but an extra hour takes a heck of a long time to do. Let's see. Okay, he says, with the agenda and everything we see beginning to play itself out, and that's all I have to say on Cliff High. He says, I followed him for some years and I have found his information to be very, very interesting. In fact, he was one of the first to tell everybody about Bitcoin. His process that he uses saw that before it actually manifested. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, he says, okay? He says, it's about information today. He says, I'm going to read a quote from Henry David Thoreau, and it's from his dissertation called Civil Disobedience. And there's another one I'm going to read from General Washington, but we'll get into that at the appropriate time. And this is setting up where we're going today. So Henry David Thoreau, he says, I think that we should be men first, subjects afterwards. It is not desirable to cultivate a respect for the law as much as for the right. The only obligation which I have a right to assume is to do at any time what I might think is right. He says, in other words, what he's trying to say there is to never forget that we are sovereign beings, sovereign individuals. We are not the property of anyone else. Even if the law declares we are not property of anyone else, we are sovereign beings. We are sovereign souls, and we should not in any way, shape, or form ever surrender that. Never. Never. Now, I say that because everything we're seeing about the Biden administration, everything we see the WEF doing, the World Economic Forum doing now, everything we see, the cabal, the agency, the C_A, the global government, the UN, he says, I want to be absolutely clear about this. The purpose of everything we are seeing was to have this administration this was supposed to be the Hillary Clinton administration. Hillary, right? She was supposed to do this, but they didn't count on Trump. So now it's the pretender in chief. Everything you're seeing was to set up the United States to surrender its sovereignty to the UN. Bastards. That's what this is all about, all of it. And what they were going to do, because they knew they could never get the guns, was they were going to poison the United States citizens, the sovereign citizens. They were going to poison us. They were going to starve us. and take everything away from us, punish us for still wanting to be sovereign and refusing to surrender our sovereignty. Now, there's 30% of this country that are willing to do that. Unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. These people must not have souls. I don't know. I don't know. He says they are willing to be slaves, give their freedoms away just so they can have their fucking internet and other crap, material crap, which they weren't going to be able to keep anyway. But they fell for it. He says they fell for the lie. They fell for the convid 49er horseshit bullshit story. He says they're still falling for the climate crisis. And it's all been manipulated by using 8 different harps on the planet. He says they fell for it all. We have another 30% here in the United States that are never going to surrender. They're never going to give up their freedoms. Right here, they're never going to surrender their sovereignty, and they are absolutely fed up with all this bullshit. I'm done. I've been done. I've been done for a very, very, very long time. Okay, they're called patriots, and then there's the last 30%. That 30%, that's in the middle. They are the summertime patriots. They wait to see which way the wind's blowing, he says, and if it's convenient, then they'll do something, he says. But they're just straddling the fence back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It is to those 30% that I've dedicated this webinar to, he says. Okay, the woke 30%, I've given up on them. He says, I've just flat out given up on them because they're knuckleheads. They don't want to hear it. Fine, he says. I don't have to preach to the patriots because I'm already a part of that community and we know the deal. We know what's going on. So it's that 30%, the fence sitters, the summertime soldiers. As Tom Paine put it, this is for you. Everything that you are seeing, that we are seeing collectively, is what Hillary Clinton presidency was supposed to put into action. He says the shutting down of the country, the destruction of the country from within, the invasion from the borders, all of that was supposed to be Hillary. She was supposed to take down the United States. End of story, period. But she didn't win. She did not win. Instead, an actor, millionaire contractor, became president of the United States. And he had to have known what he was going to go through. And he had to think about it. I bet for a long time, including his family. Okay. He says, a man I don't envy the spot he's in. But I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you think of me, I admire the man. And I admire the man for his bravery and his courage. He said, holy shit, holy shit. He said, what a storm. I totally agree. He said, Abraham Lincoln once asked during the siege of Richmond, the men closest to him, he asked the question out loud, and this is in the movie of Lincoln, done by Steven Spielberg. Do you think we're fitted to the times? And that is an amazing question. It is an amazing question because in order to be fitted to the times, you had to come in knowing a very specific block of information, and you had to time it. You had to time your birth to such a place, to such a time. I have absolutely no doubt that Trump is fitted to the times, that he's here for this very specific reason, to trigger evil to show itself, to rage at not only him, but to all of us now, because we can see the evil. We can clearly see all the evil. So the Q team told us they had to show us because not everybody would listen. So they had to show us. And they're really showing us this new year, aren't they? Yes, they are. So everything that you're seeing, those of us who are awake and are watching our country fall to collapse on itself, turn inside out, this was all planned. This was the agenda, and that's why they're allowing this to show itself. Because we, the people who are the power in this country, we fell asleep at the wheel. We totally fell asleep at the wheel. He says we didn't pay attention to what the government we allegedly elected did. And the best example is California. He says, I just don't get it. I simply do not get how you can legalize pedophilia. You could allow termination up to 29 days after birth. How you can allow all the insanity of what goes on there that you, the citizens, have to pay for. There's no free money. Nobody gets free money. He says, you are paying for it. And why you haven't rebelled against these idiots is beyond me. And I would say the same thing about us in the country as well. And what did I say a long time ago, a couple years ago? What is it going to take for Americans to turn around? We're hearing about the crisis at the border, but then you see these videos of people saying there's nothing going on, nothing's happening, no one's there. Like, what's really going on? We don't know. Like, I honestly can't say. I know I'm confused because I'm getting information there's nothing going on, and then there's all these people coming in, so I have no idea. Like, I'm confused on that. But it's time. I said a long time ago, the only way things are going to change, because they don't want a civil war, is protest. People are going to have to get out in the streets, especially in the big cities, because this is where the migration, these people are coming into these big cities. Okay. And that is another thing I heard a long time ago. This is how you're going to bankrupt these states, by these migrants coming in, and they're handed all this money on these cards, these pay cards. They're given free room, board, food, all that. Now they're like talking about giving them special treatment for first time home buyers, all this crap. That is the way to bankrupt the states. We had to bankrupt America as a corporation, right? We had to do that back in 2020, 2021, I forget. But we had to bankrupt DC, bankrupt the corporation of America. Now we have to bankrupt the states. You have to bankrupt it, let it go, so we can start over to asset-backed currency. Okay? So this is what's happening as you see this going on. These states will go bankrupt. Okay? And then the new system can come in. He says, and Alex says, we should have, a while ago, peacefully rebelled. We should have questioned our elections. The fact that we just went along to get along, he says, that's a very, very troubling sign, ladies and gentlemen. And we cannot do this anymore. It is obvious, it is plainly obvious that we have an issue. We have a government that has become rogue. He says it's gone rogue. It doesn't care what the people think. He says they print all the money they want with no consequences to themselves. But to us, there is all these consequences because we're the ones left holding the debt. Bastards. We're done. Done. The people are done, and it's time to protest. Just like the farmers in Europe, I am so excited that all these countries have joined them. Like, it is awesome to see. It makes me cry. I love it. I love it. I'm truly proud of them. And I wish we could see that here in America. I really do. Like, I think we really need to. So Alex agrees. He says that was their intention. They did not care. Just like going back to the Big Short. It says trillions and trillions of dollars were used to bail out these Wall Street banks that committed fraud everywhere. in the housing market. He says they created all these CDOs, all these collateral bonds. He says they lied about what they were, and then they sold them to our allies in other countries. They sold them to our allies, our friends, knowing that they were dog shit, he says. And then we, the taxpayers, bailed out these banks, and they put uh, one schmuck who worked for the UBS in jail, and no one else went to prison. No one else. And speaking of all this, I don't think in our new quantum system we're going to have a stock market. I don't see having a stock market, because this is how I look at the stock market, and this is how I've never really done stocks, because all it is a glorified gambling system. To me, that's how I see it. It's a glorified, and that's how they trade us. So we're not going to have a stock market, okay? You're not going to have 401ks anymore, because we're going to be giving our money um, from our trust. You won't need that. You'll have all the money you need to survive. And the stock market was the biggest way to trade us and to hide their money. So we're not going to have that anymore. He says, now look at where we are today. The banks are failing, and ladies and gentlemen, there are bank runs happening. They're just not telling you. But there are runs on the banks. He says it's happening. And this is why they keep dropping down the amount of money you can take out of your banks, because they don't have any cash. He says there's no liquidity. Do you understand? There's no liquidity because they're completely out of control. Not only that, but they have stolen as much wealth as they could squeeze out of the United States of America. And I don't say that lightly. He says they have stolen as much as they could get out of the United States of America. This week alone, over 5 million ounces of silver have been taken out of the COMEX. It says last week it was 8 million. The COMEX only holds now approximately between 26 and 27 million ounces of silver. And we even have to question that number because they have lied and manipulated these markets for so long. JP Morgan Chase, to be exact, okay? Who has made trillions manipulating the market. And again, I worked for American Express. I was a travel agent. I did a corporate account for a long time, and I worked a work-at-home job. And I worked for American Express, booking their gold card and sometimes their black card holders. Okay. I got fired. I got let go in the crash of 2008. All because they said I had touched an international reservation. I literally documented the crap out of that thing. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to touch it, even though I don't know the reason. I wish I would have kept that paperwork. I would have had proof. But it was a $3,000 ticket. Okay. I think it was within Turkey somewhere. I was changing a flight, just a one-way flight for two people. Would have only cost $3,000. I got told when I got let go, and the paperwork said they had to pay out $60,000. $60,000. Why? It was a $3,000 ticket. And yet somehow they had to pay this person back, or somebody had to get $60,000 because they had to do some. I knew back then there was shit going on and I couldn't prove it. That's money laundering right there. And of course, who owns American Express too? JP Morgan. Of course, assholes. So I lost my job back then, and that's one of the reasons we had to leave Texas. Yeah, so that burns me to this day. I really wish I would have saved that paperwork. I could have proved it. Oh my God. Anyway, enough of my rant. He says, now, ladies and gentlemen, they were supposed to be watching our back. He says, these are United States companies. These are United States banks, okay? The citizens trust them with our deposits to watch out for us, to make sure that they're protected, and we're not. He says they could not have given a shit about anything. He says anything, because they've stolen as much as they can get out of this country, all of them. One of the things in the movie The Big Short is they talk about synthetic CDOs. And what those synthetic CDOs were is that I put money into a bond, and that bond could be represented by mortgages. And then what I do is I take that bond that I've been told is a AAA or AA rating, okay? He says 90%, when in fact it's like 20% AAA. He says it was all a lie. And then what I do is put it in a tranche. I'm not sure what a tranche means. I didn't have time to look that up. Which is another program to raise money. And in those tranches, other people can bet on that same bond and say, well, it's going to pay out. And when it pays out, if it pays out, they get a piece of the action, even though they had absolutely nothing to do with the purchase of the bond or the ownership of the bond. Okay, it's a bet. It's gambling. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's kind of like how, a lot of people are like, oh, you can make so much money on Amazon. You can just pick all these products and put them on your website, and then when people buy them, you get the money. Okay, that's stupid to me. Okay, if I'm going to sell something, it's going to be something I made. I don't want shit from China. I don't want shit from anywhere else. I want stuff I made that I'm going to sell. I don't want to get rich selling crap to people that I don't put my love and energy behind. So it's the same thing here. He says JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and many, many others took that formula, which didn't work then, knew and improved it, and now what they've done is JP Morgan Chase is sitting on $77 trillion in derivatives. Now, these derivatives are all priced in United States dollars, Federal Reserve note. Bank of America is sitting on $55 trillion of derivatives, again, of Federal Reserve notes, US dollars. And he kind of laughs and he says, JP Morgan Chase has more debt than the economy of the United States of America. He says, where'd all the money go? Where did it all go? Okay, who gets stuck with the bill? We do. And I looked it up, as of the end of September, JP Morgan was 55 plus trillion. It wasn't as high as he said, though. It said Bank of America was 22 trillion, Citibank was 51 trillion, and Wells Fargo was 14 trillion. So it says, and even if we weren't stuck with the bill, the issue is that it was all backed by United States dollars or Federal Reserve notes. We need to know the difference, okay? The United States dollar is a Federal Reserve note. Funny money, paper with pictures, right? Wells Fargo was in the $34 trillion range, which this other thing said 14, but I think Citi's in the $28 million range, just a little bit below Wells Fargo, which is still an astronomical amount of money. The derivative debt of the planet is somewhere in the vicinity of $2 to $5 quadrillion in Federal Reserve US dollar notes. That's why everything has to go bankrupt. Okay? Now, they can't be paid. They can't be paid. He says they're all going to default, which means these institutions are now bankrupt. They already are. Most of them are already in bankruptcy. He says, but they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. They don't even want us to know, even though we're the ones bailing them out. Bastard. He says, because it's the system. You see, it's the system. He says, we can't question the system. We just have to go along and shut up. Why? He says, why? Because we're not sovereign beings. You see, we're not sovereign beings. In their eyes, we're not sovereign beings. Why? Because we're property. We're property. Our birth certificate detect the fact that we are property. Okay. It says that we're a line on a ledger sheet. Bullshit. It says because all of this is going into default. This is going to, and for the most part, going to destroy the Federal Reserve note. Yay! Okay, it's over. He says it's done. And these countries that are joining BRICS, there are other countries that are so small. What they've done, he says, is they're abandoning the dollar as well now. They don't want anything to do with it. And it's not about the American people. It's about the corruption of our government, of our corporations, the fact that we used our military as a police force and henchmen to go into these countries and take away some of their rights and minerals, and take possession of certain things because they could not pay back loans that they had no business being in the first place, but they were strong-armed. They got the same treatment, ladies and gentlemen, we got. It says, we'll loan you $100 and then you owe me $106 back. But the $6 on interest doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So you have to borrow more money in order to pay back the $106. You got it? It says perpetual. He says that's how it worked, perpetual debt. And they did this. They compromised. They blackmailed. They threatened, just like what our government is doing to us now. The exact same thing. But they were doing this outside the country first, okay? Most of us weren't paying attention. We didn't know it. We didn't see it. We didn't really understand, or we just didn't want to. We were so focused on our own life and living the dream that we didn't pay attention. This is why the Q team and the white hats around the world are making sure that their own citizens see this shit for themselves. So they finally get it and understand how corrupt their institutions are, and their banking institutions, and the non-elected representatives that pass all these laws which literally steal your sovereignty and your rights as a human being. Bastards. The debt markets are in complete meltdown. He says, you're not hearing about this. He says, loan defaults are through the roof. Ladies and gentlemen, they are through the roof. And really? Yeah. They fucked you over in COVID, didn't they? When people tried a forbearance because they were out of work or couldn't afford their bills during that time. Yeah. And then they tried to roll it back into the end of your loan, and yet now like our interest rate is like almost 7%. That's what they want to do to you. So you used to be paying half of that percent, and now they've increased that interest rate to make you pay more and take more money from you. That's and people cannot pay their mortgages. I see a lot of people around this town driving new cars, and I just question, like, how are you affording that? I don't know. I guess there are some people that just have money, or just, I don't know, living off credit cards still. I don't know how they're doing it. He says the Labor Bureau and Statistics, he says yesterday, says, I'm sorry. Wednesday, he says, it admitted that all the numbers that the Biden administration are telling you about the strength of the economy are a lie. They're all fake. So this was back in August when they said this. Now, why do you think the labor of Bureau and Statistics would say that? Because they're not on board with this bullshit. They're not. They're real people that work there. He said, who care? Because I'm living here with us, because they're living here with us as well. If we go down, they go down. And they said it was all bullshit. It was all fake, just like Joe Biden's fake. And now we have the next convid. He said convid 19er, the reintroduction 2.0. He said, well, of course we have an election coming, right? And he kind of laughs. He says, we have an election coming. It's right on time, isn't it? Listen, there are a lot of people who know this. David Martin, artists, many others, Christiane Northrup, the legend that she is, nowhere on this planet is there an isolated, you know what, virus. It doesn't fucking exist. It doesn't, okay? Have you noticed there's no more flu? The flu just went away. It was cured. But they never bothered to tell anybody, okay? They never bothered to tell us they cured the flu because they haven't done anything. They don't fix anything. They don't cure anything because then they're out of customers. Real simple economics. I mentioned a week or two ago, wait for the next Brentwood's announcement. It says, okay, let me clarify what I meant by that. I should have he said, I should have done it, but I had a lot on my mind. He says, and these aren't written presentations. He said, so the next meeting of Brentwood's, they will disband the Brentwood's Council. That's what I was supposed to say, and that's what I'm telling you now. Okay. He says, so that's on me. He says, now, remember all this stuff that's going on with the Biden administration, which is being run by dark intelligence agencies. Says now we can give it a name, a 3-letter name, but it's bigger than that, and it always has been. Which group is the closest to the executive office? Special Operations Coordinating Group. Special group. It says special group. Okay. They're in the National Security Council. They're directly across the street in the old executive building. That's where they are. That's who's pulling the fucking strings. He says the reason they are freaking out is because in order to maintain any kind of control, in order to protect their criminality, in order for them to protect the human trafficking information, the drug cartels, the off-world trafficking of human beings from around the world, the Democratic Party has got to win the next election by hook or by crook. Bastards. They are going to do anything to that, anything. And what you're seeing by who's siding with them, totally disregarding the law, not playing by any of the rules whatsoever anymore. What you are seeing is the deep state. You are seeing the global cabal, and this is happening in every country. To some degree, they're all dirty. They're all dirty. They do not in any way, shape, or form give a damn about humanity. We, the people, again, we're being shown all of this movement because I hear it from people all the time. My God, why isn't the military stepping in? What's going on? Da 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 da. Said, well, they want to make sure that we see this. They don't want us to forget. They want to make sure that our kids see it. And honestly, from August to now to February of 2024, I see the pieces. I see those pieces falling in, and I am getting a clearer vision every day, seeing the reason that they are doing this as slow as they're doing it. I see it. Hopefully you guys do too. Like, it's becoming clearer and clearer. They want to make sure our kids see it. They want to make sure that the kids feel some pain as well. that they're sick and tired of wearing masks, sick and tired of being put 6 feet apart from each other, sick and tired of being taught nothing in schools, absolutely nothing that prepares them for the real world, which isn't real. It's just a matrix. It's the world they created for us to be just little workers, okay? Not entrepreneurs, not scholars, not thespians, just little human robots. Bullshit. And I saw this on a Telegram page. I don't remember if it was a senator, a congressman. I don't know. It was somebody up there talking about how universities don't work, that we shouldn't have universities anymore, that they should all be changed to tech schools to teach these kids trades. I've been saying that for years and years and years. Tech schools are going to be the way to go to train these kids coming in, even to retrain us. Like, we need tech schools, okay, that are free, okay, to train. Yeah, or very, 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 very low cost. Because everything that we believe, that we have been taught, is a lie. Everything will be wiped clean, and we are all going to be starting at the bottom again, relearning our whole history. You know, we're all going to be in the same boat. Okay, we can't say that they know more than we do anymore. We're going to have that time. Okay, we're all going to know the same thing. The United States is being isolated, ladies and gentlemen, and it isn't we the people. It is because of our government, military industrial complex, and the Fortune 100. They have wreaked havoc around the world, and now that they're being expelled and kicked out, they're coming back here to the United States because they're drunk on power, drunk on wealth, and drunk on debt. They are shoving it right up our asses, he says, because it doesn't work like that anymore. Everybody's wise to it, which is why everybody's dumping the dollar. They're like, oh my God, uh, we're free from Satan. We are free from this evil. And they're not talking about we the people. They are not talking about we the people. And the government wants you to think it's us, and it isn't us. We need to be very, very clear where the blame goes. Now, we can take some blame for not paying attention. We can take the blame for not questioning authority more than we have. We should have questioned all the wars more and more and more. We have been in more wars and started more wars and invaded more countries than any other country on this earth in history. We weren't paying attention, and it was our sons and daughters that were dying. Our sons and daughters that were dying. And you know what? I looked it up. I'm not sure I said this before. I think the Civil War, World War I, World War II only lasted about 4 years. We've been in this since 2017, since Trump came in. That is the 7-year tribulation. We have been in this war for your consciousness, war for your soul for 7 years. This is the 7th year, the last final battle. This is the last. And this is why all of us are just so worn out and so tired. And we're so done, and it's been way long overdue to come to an end. That's why. It's taken way long than most of these wars. He says, it's time to take control. It's time to take control, okay? They've shown us what they want. This next lockdown is already getting resistance outside the country, but you're not hearing it because our media is a bunch of liars. There's going to be a great deal of pushback here in the United States, and there needs to be. He says there needs to be. Those who get additional boosters, sadly, but they're not going to make it. They're just not going to make it. Their agenda was to terminate billions of people before 2030, and then between 2030 and 2050 under the Agenda 21 program, which 195 countries agreed on in the 90s to do, to implement the population by 2050 is supposed to be cut in at least half, if not more. Okay, that's us, ladies and gentlemen, that's us. Now, I cannot emphasize this enough, no matter where you are on the planet. If you're paying taxes, you're paying for your own extermination. And my question is, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? I went in several months ago and I changed my tax form to 0 because I'm not going to pay for that shit either. So, no, I changed mine. It says if you bought into the climate crisis, the real science clearly proves that it's a lie, clearly shows that it's a lie. There are real scientists screaming into the wind, trying to get you to hear them, but they can't get the media to give them 15 minutes because the media is controlled by the deep state, by the cabal, the satanic forces. It's a lie, and you won't realize that until you let them take you out and you cross over to the other side. It says weather control, weather manipulation has been around for quite some time. In fact, I believe the first country to have a working model was Japan, of being able to manipulate the climate, and rumor has it that they lost control of it very quickly to the Yakuza, the Chinese mafia. He says somehow, some way, and I've talked about this for years, and it's been years since I brought it up again. He says, no one's corrected me on, and now most countries have it, especially in the West. Okay, so it is real and it is manufactured. It's manufactured, no question about it. He says there was an interview with Juan O'Savin on the phone with David Nino Rodriguez, and I believe the title of it is It's All Coming Down. Or Trump is, it's the last one. He says about 28 minutes or something. And in there, in that conversation, and Mr. O'Savin has been pretty right on with his intel. He mentions the fact that people he knows that were in the Supreme Court building overheard a shouting match between Brett Kavanaugh and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Rogers. And Rogers was screaming at the top of his lungs, "There is no way we can hear this case." I guess this was about the elections. There's no way we can hear this case. Now, what was the case about? They already know that the election was stolen. Oh, okay, so he explains this. He says, they already know that there was cooperation between the Democratic Party, intelligence agencies, and the United States with foreign powers. They already know. He says, they've seen the evidence, but Chief Justice Roberts does not want to go there. One, because he's compromised, and if you've paid any attention to the things that have surrounded him, he apparently went through an adoption service that's connected to Jeffrey Epstein to get his daughters. He and his wife have. He says, now I have no idea what kind of father he is, but that's leverage, okay? That's leverage, that's blackmailable stuff, he says. But he obviously refuses, according to the sources, to listen to this case. So what do you do when the court of law, a former president, and his assassin attorneys go into court and go, here's all the data. This is military data, satellite data. They show it all, okay? Very similar to what Mike Lindell has already done. Bless that man. He's a great man, Mike Lindell. But I mean, probably like, wow, here it is. Here's the dirt. What's the court going to do? They going to throw it out? Are they going to say no? Is Georgia going to open up treason against the Democratic Party? No, of course not. So what's going to have to happen when you have clear proof of treason? The military. The military is going to have to step in and say, okay, here we go. They cannot allow this type of grievance, this type of corruption, treason to be unanswered, because then We're not a country. We're no longer a country. We're actually less than a banana republic, okay? And we're being invaded by the southern border every day, and we don't even know who half these people are or what they are. This sets off a huge chain of reaction, a huge chain of actions. Now, this is probably how they're going to do it. I don't see it happening any other way unless they just come out of nowhere and say, look, we have all this proof of treason. We know who they are. There are hundreds and hundreds of them, many even thousands, and we're going to have to take them down. And then the military launches the EBS or EAS and says, okay, guys, you have 6 to 8 hours to get home. And if you're on the road and if you're traveling, you have to figure out how to get home. Get on a bus, rent a car, aircraft, boat, whatever. You're going to have to get home. And they will have had the US borders locked down at that point because they already know they already have it all. Space Force already has it all. God bless Space Force. This is not a stretch at all. This is more than likely how it's all going to come down. Bless you, Sika. Oh my goodness. And as soon as the EBS goes down, goes out, things start to happen. He says, now, will there be 10 days of darkness? Will technology, he says, let's see. He says, well, technically, they never said there would be 10 days of darkness. They said 10 days of dark, okay? They didn't say we were going to shut everything down. That makes no sense at all. They need to have us informed. They need to tell us what's going on. He says, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the citizenry of the country, 335 million, whatever the real number is now, he says, at least 210 million of us are armed to the hilt. And I agree with that. Millions of rounds of ammunition. They don't want to come up against us no more than we want to take them out. What we want to do is get rid of the evil. That's where the focus needs to be. That's where the cooperation needs to be, to remove the evil that's here. And the evil is now coming out of the mist, out of the fog, and we're beginning to see it. We see it. And it's funny because I watched a show and it talked about the fog being a portal. That fog, which I'm sure like smoke screens, are portals as well. That totally made sense to me. Hang on, I gotta let go. Here. Sorry, hot, 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 hot. Okay. Okay. He said some of us saw it 35 years ago, some 50 years ago, some were concerned with it 100 years ago about the evil. And what I'm going to tell you is this. The root of this evil, this root of debt slavery, the root of fascism, and the root of this satanic nonsense all goes back to the city of London. That's where it starts. That's where it starts, he says, and he says it's infected the world. It's infected the world, and now it's everywhere, and everywhere is where we've got to clean this mess up. Doesn't mean we take it into our own hands, but you've got to find out who the good cops are and who the bad cops are, and you want to stay away from the bad cops and make sure you're in support of the good cops, and you want to let them know if they need you. You are there to watch their backs. That's important to know, okay? Because in other countries, police forces are different. They know everybody in the neighborhood because they grew up in these neighborhoods. So they know. They went to school with kids, so they know. We have that in some areas of the United States, but not in the big cities, okay? The Q team said there would be 14 to 15 cities that would really be locked down. They would have a lot of military presence, and those 14 cities, let's see if I can get it without looking. He says Miami, Houston, Austin, which I find Austin. I lived in Austin, so obviously it got really bad. Have been gone from there for 14 years, so obviously got really bad. He says, I think Dallas is on the list, San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York, and I can't remember the other 4 or 5. I'm sure Seattle, Portland, yeah, any of those big ones. Atlanta, probably. Um, and the reason for that is that these are stronghold areas of the deep state. This is where they've had the most clout. This is where they've been stealing elections for decades and decades. And I don't know if this means anything to you or not, but they have been laughing at us for decades. They think we're complete morons and idiots um, than we are because, one, we didn't see it. And always says, and we are, because one, we didn't see it, two, because we don't think like them, and three, because basically we're very, very good people. We're an honest, genuine people. We have an authenticity to us that's genuine. What we want to do is help, and that's where the goodness of America comes from. Whenever there's problems in other parts of the world, such as Hawaii, people rise up and we give help to others, even if it's a hardship to us, because we understand, we have compassion. They think we're idiots for this. Yeah, because they're reptilians. They don't have empathy. They don't have a soul. They have no heart. It says because our soul is still intact. It says they think that we're morons and they laugh at us for this. So BRICS is going to grow and it's going to grow exponentially. Even if its other countries are not accepted into it, they're going to be a part of it because they want nothing to do with the government and the banking cartels of the Rothschilds. That includes the IMF and the World Bank. It says maybe even Bank of International Settlements. I'm not sure. I've heard Nazis run that, which again, I believe those are Zionists and they're two different things. Like, yeah. Zionists are not true Jews. Okay. Nazis are Zionists. But we'll just have to see, he says. But anyways, BRICS is having nothing to do with it. He says there is information coming out of the BRICS meeting that they're going to use XRP for nation-to-nation financial transactions. And if that's the case, BRICS is at 52 cents a share at the moment. He says, now, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm looking into it for the first time myself, okay? Because look, he says, I know how uncomfortable this looks. I'm embarrassed to even have to go here, okay? Because I know people from around the world. He says, they know the people are really pretty decent people, but they do not understand why we allowed our governments to be so rogue and reckless, so carnivorous. They have eaten and destroyed everything they've touched for their own power and their own greed. And then whatever they couldn't get, they blackmailed and then just took or assassinated people who were in their way. This is not okay. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this was our government. This was our government, American government. Okay. The Declaration gives us the right. The Declaration of Independence gives us the right to throw off this government and start new. And we know where this all happened. 1871. That's where we lost the republic and we became a democracy. Again, people get that mixed up. You want to be a republic. You don't want to have a democracy. Okay, you don't. That's mob rule. It says, and we are not a democracy. The founding fathers hated democracy. He says this because it is mob rule, and they had already been through all that. History is replete with all that, which is why we were a constitutional republic. And yes, we made mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes, but ladies and gentlemen, it's still our country. It's still our nation, and I'm truly hoping there's at least 60, 70, 80% of people who care enough about their country to save it, to protect it from this evil, and that when we are called upon by the military, by the white hats, whoever it is, that we will step up as men and do the right thing because we're there. He says, we're there. This is going to unwind very quickly, and we are going to have to be on top of things. We're going to have to pay attention. We're going to have to try to educate for those that don't have a clue because they're in another world as to what's going on. If they ask, if they don't ask, he says, love them from a distance. That's all you can do. BlackRock owns most of the real estate in this country, and they're having trouble. They're having liquidity trouble. They're back in the news in February, aren't they? Wow. There's no cash, ladies and gentlemen. There's no cash in the system, all right? Because the Fed exists on paper. It exists on paper. Whatever decisions they're telling everybody they're making, they're doing it because they want to keep waking up people to what's going on. All right. The Federal Reserve note, the dollar, has to be destroyed because it's not our currency. We rent the currency, okay? We rent it. It belongs to a private banking cartel. It is not United States Treasury note. Just go to the United States debtclock.org and go to the US debt. You will see that it says on it, United States note, United States Treasury note. Since the 50s, it said Federal Reserve, US dollars. It no longer says that. So we have already begun the transition. They will change the currency to an asset-backed currency. We know this, but we can't do it with these criminals, with these satanic beings in power. There's no way. They will infect everything. So we cannot do it with them. There has to be a takedown of the system. Somewhere in there, they will do the revaluation. And there's no one in this country that actually knows the date unless they're sitting at the table and they're not talking because you don't want to tell the enemy what you're doing. This is the third density chessboard, what we talked about today, what we talked about before, okay? This is the third density chessboard, specifically the United States and the rest of the world. Each country is going through its own stuff. There are rebellions in most countries right now, big time right now in February, where the citizens are just fed up. They're fed up with the lies. They're fed up with losing their rights. They're fed up with having everything that they worked for stolen. They are fed up with the incompetence. They are fed up by the deceit. They are fed up with their children missing and disappearing and their sons and daughters being enslaved and taken underground. We're all so done with this. And then on the fourth density level, you have the alliance. You have the star nations working together to protect us from anything outside. They will not solve this problem for us on the third density level. This is on us. This is a genuine teachable moment for all of humanity. And if this goes according to plan, this will unite humanity. That's what it's designed to do. Because now everybody, for the most part, will be awake. They will see the darkness, they will see the evil, and we will all take a step back together and say, look at each other and say, no, 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 no. Never again can we do this. Never again can we allow this to happen. And that's the epiphany here for humanity, is this moment. That's the epiphany humanity has to have. And it doesn't have to be 100%. In fact, it probably won't be. There are some people who simply don't want to take responsibility for their lives because they're absolutely stuck in victimhood. Love them from a distance, he says. They'll be the first ones to go get the new shots. The new boosters. Okay. I I work with people like that. They're a really decent person other than that, but they really have no clue what's going on. None. He says, it is my personal opinion you should never get another one ever. Ever. And if it means you can't travel to Europe, then so be it. Use Zoom. He laughs. He says, use Zoom, use WhatsApp, but do not put that crap in your body. Do not do it. Says, I will read this quote once before, and it's time. I read this quote once before, and it's time to bring it back up again. It's from President or General George Washington, January 8th of 1790. A free people should not only be armed and disciplined, but they should have sufficient arms and ammunition to maintain a status of independence from any who might attempt to abuse them, which would include their own government. Okay. He says, well, Hawaii, FEMA, governor, police chief, they crossed the line. So this is what happened in Lahaina. Says what happened there was an absolute travesty. It could have been anywhere. Says it could have been anywhere that they did this. Know who your police officers are. Know who your county sheriffs are. Know who your neighbors are. If you don't know what their feelings are, fly. He says, fly a Trump flag. He says you'll find out pretty quick. He says, fly the Betsy Ross star, the 13 stars, the Star Spangled Banner, the flag of 1812, 1814, the 15 stars. He says, fly that. You'll find out who your neighbors are. He says, we need each other. The United States is not a government. The United States is not a corporation. The United States is a group of people who agreed with intent to live together, to be sovereign, and to live in harmony with each other. And that's what it should be for every single country on this planet. You only have a country if you have people in it, and you only have a government if all of you consent to that particular government. It's really simple, folks. He says it really, really is simple. He says, I wanted to read something, and it gives along the lines of men and women's bodies and grounding, and I'm not going to get to that today, but we will sure do it next week. But I wanted to share this. Visayas gave me this information February 4th of 1988. It says, intent is the origin of all physical matter. It says, as if there were a physical membrane on one side of the reality that you know, and on the other side is invisible machinery. The intent of the isness, which they refer to as the creator or God, is what makes all things possible. Intent is the key word for you and other teachers on your planet. Desire, if you prefer, can also be used, but it is the isness, desire and intent to explore itself in all possible manifestations that create your physical world. That intent begins at the smallest unit of matter, an electron. Then it is the first hesitant physical manifestation of your intent as it eases through the membrane into physical life and begins to joyfully dance. There are pockets and then gaps in that membrane, which then energize with enough intent to transform that intent into physical units and or matter. And once this electron has been given birth in such a manner, it calls back to the isness, and it sends its own intent back to the isness, begging for its playmates to join it. This makes it easier for other units of matter to follow, as they are denser and therefore created by a stronger burst of intent than that of electrons. The exuberance of the atoms multiplied by the wonder of a molecule, which astonishes itself in the miracle with a single cell organism, and then on and on up the ladder to the unimaginable complex organisms. That is in fact you, and all of your brothers and sisters on earth. You are all composed of uncountable amount of atoms and molecules, of every one of them jumping for joy to join in the partnership to create who you think you are. We emphasize that the natural state of the world is one in which love and fulfillment are the easiest paths to follow. It is much more work to bring yourself negative experiences than it is to deny beauty and wonder. So don't deny beauty and wonder of your own beings. Return deaf ears to a song of molecules that you yourself compose. Do not stray from the path of self-fulfillment and imagination. He says, I wanted to share that in order to share this piece. Somebody posted a new scientific discovery. It was on TikTok, and because of the copyright, I cannot show it to you. But it's a young man who said they always thought that the creation of the human life between a man and a woman was that the fastest sperm won the race. Apparently, that's not how it happens at all. Apparently, the woman's egg sends out a frequency. She, the egg, chooses which sperm can come forward and which should not. She sends out a signal to the sperm that's been chosen to move faster. She then sends out another signal to the other sperm to slow down, which is what they do, so that the one sperm is chosen by the egg, by the woman, and there is the beginning of the creation of life of a baby. He said, ladies and gentlemen, the feminine principle, oh, I got chills, has always been the strongest dominant force in nature. And we have been taught that it isn't. It is. Because nature chooses. Nature doesn't have committees. Nature doesn't have senates and Congress, women, men. Okay, he says nature is an entirely open and yet closed system, and we've not paid enough attention to it to even know how it works. The indigenous people have, but we didn't listen. We haven't been listening, and they were right. They were right all along. We could have saved ourselves thousands and thousands of deaths, hardships, wars, massacres, all of this, if we had just listened. I'm not a financial person, he says, but there is definitely a black swan coming. No question about it. They're going to do something to raise the markets, make them go to this incredible height, just what they said. Then all the big money people said, so all of their little minions can get their wealth out of the system and put it into commodities, such as metals, oil, and other things that are needed every single day, energy, whatever it is. You mark my words, and other people are going to join in on this, on the market climbing, thinking, hey, it's a fast buck, it's a fast buck. He says, you're all going to do what you're going to do. But for those of us that don't have that liberty, he says we have to do the best we can to take care of ourselves now. If you're working and you can squeeze out 45, 50 bucks every paycheck, buy a piece of silver. If you get an insurance claim and it's sizable, buy a piece of gold. He says, do something to protect yourself, okay? Make sure your pantry is full. There are going to be issues because as everyone moves away from the dollar, and it's going to happen, he says, we're not going to be able to pay for imports because they don't want our funny money anymore. They don't, he says, and those who are coming into and being a part of BRICS, one of the conditions is you won't use the Federal Reserve note. The US dollar, which is a privately owned currency. It says, ladies and gentlemen, we don't control it. We don't control it. Federal Reserve is the one who raises the rates, lowers the rates, not the United States Treasury. There is no Federal Reserve in the original Constitution of the United States. It is the United States Treasury. He says you have to grasp this. That's why we have a debt that's perpetual. It was because they wanted to shut us down. They wanted to rob us blind. And that's exactly what they did. Now, by some miracle, we have a group of patriots and white hats standing around a guy who has more gumption than anyone I've ever seen, and that's President Donald Trump. He literally is telling the deep state to go fuck yourself. And when he says they don't want me, they want you, he's not kidding. Look at what they're doing to our society. Look at what they're doing to our states. Look at what they're doing to our cities. He says, between now and this time next year, you're going to have school districts completely bankrupt and probably closing. We're going to have counties whose road maintenance and everything are bankrupt and they're gone. You may even have some state governments that are operating in an emergency manner because there's no state senate, because they cannot pay their salaries, because there's no liquidity. And it may be like that until we switch to a constitutional currency. There are a lot of things going on and we have to pay attention. And there are a lot of great truthers out there. We're still we're still called conspiracy nuts, but I guess that just goes with the territory, right? I've been called crazy for a long time. Yeah. But if you are called that, wear it as a badge of honor. I don't have all the answers like you. I'm trying to figure all that out. Okay. I have kids spread out that I want to help and try to protect, but not all of them are listening either. He says, at least not yet. But we do the best we can. Again, I have no idea when my email situation is going to square itself away, but if you absolutely have to get a hold of me, first nights, so FIRSTKNIGHTS 17 or on Telegram or on Signal or on WhatsApp, okay? That something galactic is supposed to occur in 2030. He says, it scared the absolute shit out of the evil ones and it inspired the white hats, the benevolence to move things into action, to save humanity or to enlighten humanity, because we don't know what the event is yet. That's less than 7 years away, less than 6.5. Okay. It's time to pay attention. It's time to pay attention to everything going on the surface. And in paying attention, we will all know what we don't want, what we do want, and together, in doing that, we project our intent and begin to manifest what it is we do want. And we do it together, collectively, as as a series of soul groups and as humanity, the Terran race. No one's going to do this for us. No one can do this for us, okay? We either rise to the occasion or we don't, and then it's over. Because these guys will not stop, okay? These guys will not stop. And remember, everything you're seeing being done by the cabal, two-tiered legal system, judicial system, starving everyone out, the destroying of the currency, the economic system of the United States, and allowing the invasion across the borders of our country. These are all things to take down the United States, ladies and gentlemen. And what should really bother you is that these deep states are all crooks, and now they are literally destroying the country that they've been feeding off of. That should give you pause. That should keep you up at nights. It says right there. They have probably stolen everything here that's left, and now they don't care. They don't have to take it all down and destroy to hide what they've done. They have to take it all down. He said, okay, scratch that. They have to take it all down and destroy it to hide what they've done. That's why they've done resets. That should keep us up at night, keeps me up at night, he says, because no one is playing by the rules anymore, because there are no rules. So we need to band together. We need to band together. We need to find out who's white hat, who's black hat, and we have to figure out We have to figure it out. And as I get more information or I get any enlightenment or someone that I meet, I mean, there's so many great people out there talking. He says, Sarge is just on fire. I'm just so proud of him. He's on Icons 2020. He's doing great. O'Savin, Nino, Michael Sala, Elena Denan, Danny Henderson, and Tony Rodriguez. SG Anon is doing great research, which I'm surprising he said that because about a year before that, he said he wasn't following SG Anon anymore because of something he said about General Washington. So I'm surprised he said that about SG Anon. Ricardo Bossi, Guru, and so many others to mention. He says, we all share a common bond, and that's our love for country. There's never been a country like the United States, ladies and gentlemen. There never has. The United States created a whole new domain of knowing. That's not to say other nations are not great or benevolent or fantastic. Each one is, but they're they're from time to time in history nations that rise up and they change the game. Our country was hijacked and we didn't know it. Our planet was invaded and our history altered and we didn't know it. So we have some catching up to do, and there's no room or time for a pity party. We have to keep moving forward. We have to be resolute with ourselves and each other. And what I mean by resolute is fully committed to the course we're going to take to save our country, to save our families, to save the human race. Because they've already made it clear, the deep state, the cabal, whoever they are, the Satanists, that they were going to destroy and take out 90% of the world's population. That's their creed. It's in black and white. Just read Agenda 21. It's in the UN. Read 2030. He says it's on their fucking webpage. Okay? That's their credo. He said, no way, Jose. No way, Jose. He says, September is going to be really interesting, folks. It is. It's going to be real interesting as things come together, as more and more information is revealed, and we can put the pieces together, you know. He says, I and others, I'm sure, will be sharing that with you because, you know, we all want the same thing, and that's to live, be happy, to thrive, to excel, be abundant, to be healthy. You know, we have all this incredible technology that has either been left behind or was given to humanity as a gift that we've never seen because the dark ones got control of it, such as free energy, Tesla coils, heating modalities, frequencies, frequency bands, color technology, all these things that would help and benefit humanity and would change the way we live in less than 10 years. It would take a huge burden off the survival of humanity, the pressure humanity's had for thousands of years, and they refused to give it to us. It's not okay. This is absolutely not okay, bastards. You know there's technology that's available today using frequencies, and you cannot believe how they are fucking with everyone who's trying to do this. Oh my God. He says it's amazing. It's actually amazing the energy they're putting into stopping this, and that clearly shows their intent. And it clearly shows the intent so that it's so he says that's why the system has to come down so we can remove all the blockages so that all of humanity can benefit from these technologies, which were known to our ancestors, to our forefathers and foremothers of generations long, long past. This is how I see our future as all that technology. So that futuristic, like to us, it's futuristic. All this technology is going to be combined with going back to the old world ways of living off the land and having herbal holistics, all that. Like not having to work for a company to make money, to just survive, like that day to day and pay your bills and not have any fun. Like I see I see this beautiful, like incredible, you know, merge of future technologies integrated with the old past and all the history that we're going to learn about our past. It's going to be amazing. It's just going to be amazing. Um, he says the lockdown is going to be used. I believe it's going to be hijacked by the white hats, and they're going to use that to make sure everybody's safe at home. And then they'll launch the EBS and start telling us what's going on as they take down these people who have just committed treason and who hate humanity. Haven't you noticed here in February? There's sure a lot of people stepping down and resigning lately. And there's, of course, more dead. When's the last time you heard from Hollywood? When's the last time you heard from anybody, that spoke out against Trump or whatever? Like, you see, I saw a fake picture of Tom Hanks and Taylor Swift, like wearing a, oh, not Trump again shirt. Like, what the hell? That's CGI. Taylor Swift, she had that one song, and there's a one sentence in there that, it's like the phone ringing. I don't remember what song it was, but it's the phone ringing, and she like picks it up, and they asked for Taylor, and she says, "Oh, Taylor's not here anymore." They're telling it right to you. She's gone. The real one is gone. The one we're seeing is not the real one. So, hmm, interesting, huh? Um, okay, he says, okay, that took a while. He says, JP, let's do some questions. And then he jumps back into saying, I want to make a statement. Ladies and gentlemen, number one, some of you sent me donations. I don't have access to emails, okay? So I don't know where you are in the world. He says, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, literally from the bottom of my heart. What makes these webinars so difficult is I have no idea what you want to hear, and I get what's important to me is maybe not to you. He says, and occasionally I will stumble into something that is really important to you, but you've stayed here. You've stuck through all the stuff you didn't want to hear about or weren't interested in and I just want to thank you for that. He says, James, JP, and myself, we had no idea that this would continue for as long as it has. 190. This was his number 190 webinar. And he says, it's extraordinary. And he just kind of laughs. And he says, I was back on the street when we decided um, to try this and to see if it would work. And I had to do this at a library because it was the only connection I had. And it worked because of you. It works because of you. I had a hard time. I lost my security clearances because I was a conspiracy theorist. The UFO guy, he says, is what I had two hiring agents tell me. You're a UFO guy. We can't have you here. You know, and what makes it tough is you know what you know. You know what you know. I wasn't just a UFO guy. I've been in them. I took rides. I flew in one. Excuse me. So I wasn't just a UFO guy, but I knew what I knew. And there are many of you out there who will see this or are listening to this somehow, some way, somewhere. Don't give up. Stay with your truth. Never surrender your truth because that's who you are. And if you know that, that's your truth. That's your path. You came in for that reason. Never give up. It just means your frequency is not aligned with who you are. And you need to find out where your frequency is aligned and move to other groups or to other work or something. You have to connect with people who are of the same frequency. And if you don't have any idea of what I'm talking about, it's called intuition. Um, it could be that you're overthinking stuff and you're not listening to your intuition, um, your first impression, and then moving on. Okay, you're overthinking and you're talking yourself out of it, which means you're in your own way and in your own way, and that means
you don't have faith in your own gut instinct, and you're going to want to correct that. You're going to want to get to the bottom of that. Why you don't trust your own self, your own inner sense. And there are people to talk to, like Mina would be a perfect person to talk to, okay? She's all intuitive. She's so into the moment, so dialed, it's scary. And there are others I'd want to introduce you to as well, but I don't have their permission yet because they don't know yet. And he kind of laughs, okay? So if nothing else were to happen in this lifetime for me, I could honestly say that I met some of the most extraordinary people that have ever lived that almost nobody else has known about. And maybe that in itself was worth the trip here, you know? That he says, and then linguine with a great white clam sauce. And he laughs. And tiramisu. That was definitely worth the trip. Okay, and then there's a few questions. Somebody was talking about the med beds and the third strand of DNA being activated. And he just said some people have spiritual experiences where the Holy Spirit and some source of spiritual enlightenment connects to them, and they have an experience, and they are forever changed by the experience, and their third strands are turned on. I truly believe that the fluctuations in the Schumann resonance is preparing us, um, or our human bodies, our physical bodies, for this flipping of the switch of the third strand of DNA. It's just that it's taking longer because our bodies have been poisoned by pesticides, by the ingredients in foods, the add-ons, chemicals, vaccines, fluoride, and other things in the water. Pharmaceuticals now. It says that people have been urinating out of their bodies and now in the drinking water system. All of these things are contributing to our bodies being slow to recover or to get to where it leads to the switch. So just like healing frequencies, okay, just like healing frequencies use a Tesla coil or a twine, a frequency system. And he showed his little quantum pad, frequency pad he's been using for his healing. He says a twine quantum frequency system, okay? All these different frequencies adjust or fix a different part of the body, and it fluctuates to whatever the body needs at the moment. When an organ is healthy, and then it adjusts and it goes to another frequency or series of frequency to work on other parts of the body. This is how it works. I mean, we're just taking natural science and applying to our third world density. This is how the universe works. Well, this is what's happening with the Schumann resonance. We're beginning to see fluctuations. We're beginning to see pauses. We're beginning to see corrections in the frequency of itself to something else. We're seeing the vibrations change and adjust, okay, midstream. It's the universe helping us to prepare for this, and others of benevolent nature, so that we can jump to a higher vibration, so that we can turn on all of our DNA strands at some point. We're getting help, okay? And the fact that the woman's egg chooses the sperm she wants only goes to prove and add that every single one of us is meant to be here. We are literally meant to be here, chosen to be here. None of this is an accident. It's divine intervention. It is divine intervention because we're a part of the divinity of the all that is. Source, Great Spirit, Creator. Others call God Allah, Yahweh, Jehovah. Well, those two are extraterrestrials, but everyone will figure that out here very shortly. But nonetheless, there's a creator. Extraterrestrials cannot create dimensions. They can't do it. They can create holographs, but not dimensions. Okay? Only Source does that, and no one can create soul. There are some really, really advanced AI systems out in the universe on higher dimensions. They cannot create soul. Okay? That is a gift from Source, and that's who you are. That's who you are. You are a gift from Source to yourself. Boom. Stop with the victim shit. Take back your power. We need to take back our power, all of us, and just say enough of this bullshit. Okay, and then question. Dear Alex, please tell us what you know about our planet's ley lines. What is the source of their spiritual or multidimensional energy? And he says, it's the aura of the planet. I don't remember seeing or hearing him talk about the ley lines before, so this was interesting. He says it's the aura of the planet. It is the auric field of the planet. I should say it's the part of the auric field of the planet. Mother Earth. The planet is made up of many different collective grid systems or systems of intent of life. Much of this life, in order to survive, has to have migratory patterns. So the ley lines is her way of communicating with nature that does these migratory patterns in order to survive. When to go, when to come back, how to go, how to get there. She uses the ley lines, and then you have the rest of the atmosphere, which is the extension of the Earth's auric field as well. That's what ley lines are. And there are places where ley lines cross. There are places where 3 or 4 lines cross. Those are known as energy centers or vortexes. Okay. And they were used for thousands of years by visitors from off-world, extraterrestrial visitors to come in and out of Earth's field for study, observation, to take life form that they've had or they've found somewhere else that's been genetically modified, and to put it here on Earth to see if it would survive, if it could survive. And there's been a lot of that. It is my understanding that there's only one life form that they found out there that they did not have to genetically modify that could survive in order could survive in our environment, in almost any environment, and that's octopus. They are very stout creatures, very, very clever as well. Hello, Alex. Much gratitude to you and the A team for all you do. Please let us know what is going on in Canada and where are we with the keys or codes from the dark ones to unlock the spells that were cast. Yeah, I've heard about that before, is that they're having to do everything in reverse to reverse the spell. That's what I've heard. I don't know. Alex says, okay, I don't know anything about the keys or the spells, but isn't it interesting that the green movement wants to protect the climate, protect nature, lower the carbon footprint to the point of even killing us, and yet they will let wildfires roar and not put them out, knowing that forests that are burning create a carbon footprint that's off the charts. Isn't that hypocrisy? That they won't allow the people to do that, to figure it out, that they would block them from helping their neighbors and friends. Isn't that awful? So it appears that Canada has gone rogue. Now, I've heard there's lots of white hats up there. Not being in Canada, I'm not paying that much attention to it, but I do find it interesting they won't let anybody put out the fires. They're content to just let themselves burn out, which is, of course, ludicrous in some parts of Canada. As long as there's fuel, they'll keep burning, and they'll keep spewing ash and carbon into the atmosphere that they say they want to lower. It's just all bullshit. What they're probably wanting to do is take the land. They want to use the land for something else. So they're going to burn it, use eminent domain, take over the land because it's been damaged or fire or something. And then, most of the Canadians seem to be very compliant or have been very compliant with their government. And now it's catching up with them, like it's catching up with us in America, just like it's catching up with those in Australia. The exact same thing. We weren't paying attention, and we were lulled to sleep by our governments, took advantage of it, and they've gone rogue. Sorry, this is a long one, guys. Sorry. He says, look, we have each other. Do the best you can, but take care of your loved ones, even if they're asleep. Have some faith, have some patience, more patience with them. He says, I know it's hard, but he says, we can't give up on them. Thank you for your continued support of our webinars. Thank you for everything that you're doing for your communities, for your family, for each other. We're obviously meant to be in this place. Um, we're obviously meant to be alive at this time for this, whatever this is going to turn out to be. And I truly believe it's going to be something remarkable beyond our expectations. And thank you for all your help. Those of you, as soon as my email situation is squared away, I will get back to you. Remember, no matter how dark it is, the dawn always comes. The sun does shine. The sun shines after every storm. It always comes out and shines a rainbow. That's what I'm going to add. And I have no doubt that'll be true of our situation here. Let me know if the webinars, let me know what you think of the webinars, okay? I never know, and I'm curious as hell. He says 190, and I'm still feeling like I'm learning how to do this. And I guess it's probably a good thing, but I would be curious to know. And if you think it's shite, he says, just say it's shite. And you don't have to go on to elaborate, okay? And he kind of laughs. He says, James JP, once again, thank you. Admins, oracles, thank you for all you do. And thank you to all of you that are here helping and wanting to make a difference. God bless all of you, and we will get through this. So I will end it there. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your family and friends. It's free, of course. Thank you so much. I love all of you. I might try to do this last Friday's one from the end of January. We'll see. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but there's other videos I would like to do. But thank you so much for watching. There's a lot going on. Look at all these royals who are resigning. Oh, King Charles has cancer. Prince William is going away, and so is Kate. Kate's going away for 9 months now for abdominal surgery. Like, something's going on. So all these royals are stepping down. They're hiding away. Like, uh, is it a good thing? Maybe they're being insulated. The good ones are, and maybe the bad ones are going bye bye for a very long, forever. Who knows? There's a lot of things going on. So I'm gonna go watch the Tucker interview, and hopefully you all will too. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'm sorry I have not. I've gotten to some of the comments over the last couple months, but I have not gotten to my email. So I will try to get to that soon if you've emailed me. My email is always in the link below. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, please ask me. I love you all so much. You are my family. We will get through this. The pressure is releasing. We are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and it is coming. It's going to come very quick. Things are going to start like they are every day. We get several things all the time. So I love all of you. Stay grounded, stay in there, go in nature. And I love all of you. I will see you next time. Bye. Go donate to Alex. Support him too. Thanks. Bye.